I am so excited to be here. When Ryan and Michael came to me and said, hey, Kent, could you help us with RemixConf again? I said, that sounds great. Here's the thing. I've already submitted some talks. And so if I'm helping with RemixConf, then I am definitely selecting myself. And so I did. I'm really excited about what I'm going to share with you because I've got an announcement. I'm releasing something today. And yeah, I know, I'm hyped. So let's get into this. Before we get too far, I need blood flow in your veins to your brain. So everybody, if you could please, if you're physically able to join us, stand up. And I'm not your mom, so you don't have to, but please do. Put your arms in front of you like this and squat down and back up. You can go as deep as you want or like just a little dip. That's fine too. We're going to do 12 of these together in synchronous, So ready? Count out loud with me. 1, 2. You're doing so great. 3, 4. Doesn't that feel good? 5, 6. You forgot to exercise this morning. You're getting that in. 8, 9, 10, you're doing awesome. 11 and 12. Okay, before you sit down, stretch up as high as you possibly can, and then even higher than that, and then learn something from that. All right, stretch over to one side, and over to the other. Super. Doesn't that feel so good? Okay, thank you. You can sit down. This is the only thing that separates us from the AI now, is that we can move. Okay, I've got a content warning for you. So watch your kids. Sadness is ahead. This happened about 30-minute drive south from here, just in the last couple weeks. Whoops. So what happened here is this builder piled up a bunch of dirt on the edge of a cliff and built 2 houses on it. That didn't work out. I'm not making this up. That's the name of the builder. Yeah. Whoops. It's really sad, actually. Luckily, nobody was hurt. Everybody was okay. But yeah, we are all terrified of making a mistake like this. Every one of us, metaphorically. I mean, I'm kind of scared if I ever made a mistake like this. But metaphorically, we're terrified of this. We're going to talk about making big decisions. Decisions where the risk is enormous, the likelihood is really low, but it paralyzes us. So, modern front-end or web development is fantastic. There are so many great tools available, right? There's so many options. We can do so many amazing things because we have really awesome tools. But modern web development is exhausting because there are so many great tools available. Both of these sentiments are true. How many of you remember JavaScript fatigue? Yeah? That thing that went for like a year. We were all just talking about JavaScript fatigue. It's so exhausting. It is still happening. Yes, still happening. It is still exhausting. You know what was exhausting was putting this slide together. That's a lot of tools. And some of these tools you wouldn't use together unless you're migrating from one to the other. Others of these tools you would definitely use together, but that's a lot of tools that we have to learn and decide between. Which ones of these do we use? Oh, shoot. I forgot one. Oh, there it is. My personal favorite. Doesn't that make you feel a little bit like, poor Elmo, oh my gosh, it's exhausting. But real talk, almost whatever you choose will probably be fine. You can use Next.js, you can use Nuxt, you can use SvelteKit. It'll probably be fine. And you already know this. I'm not like, this is no big revelation, like, oh, it would be fine. No, we all know, it'll be fine, probably. You buy a house, you get an inspector, they say it's good. All right, we can move into that house. I wouldn't want to be the inspector that said that house was good. Whoops. But we're still indecisive. On the one hand, it'll probably be fine, we know that. On the other, you have to live with this for however long your app matters to the world. And so this is where it's low likelihood, really high risk. because if you do get it wrong, then you're stuck, and you have to do some migration. It's not fun. We don't want to be the one to build a house on an edge and have it fall over. We certainly don't want to be the person in the house at the time. Nobody was in the house at the time. So after you have made your selection and gone through all of that paralyzing work, getting everybody aligned is kind of like herding cats, because you have to like teach people this is the way we do it, and then some engineer over here kind of likes it this way, so they start doing it that way, and now you've got two ways to solve the same problem. It can be a real pain. I've worked on many different sizes of teams. I've been a platform engineer responsible for many teams. This is a really difficult problem. And on top of that, once you do select your tools, you have to wire them up together, and it doesn't always work out very well. It's all just a big distraction. We just want to engage, just want to ship. It really is exhausting. And so I've been around for a while. I've shipped a lot of things. I've shipped apps to just a couple of users that are internal apps. I've shipped apps to millions of users all over the world. And in that time, I feel like I've developed some opinions that some people in this room and watching live stream seem to respect. So thank you for trusting me. I feel like I can make these decisions and feel pretty good about it. I feel kind of like I can be a bit of an expert. When I face or see some challenge, I can look at that and be like, I know how to proceed, execute. Some of my opinions, though, not everybody likes. And that's fine, because we've already established that it will probably be fine whatever you do. The problem isn't the choice itself, it's the paralysis that makes the choice really difficult. And so I'm here to solve that problem. I want to end the paralyzing effects of not being able to choose. And sorry, I should probably come up with a different word. So I don't mean to be exclusionary to people who are actually paralyzed physically. So today I want to introduce an opinionated project starter and a reference. It's called the Epic Stack. Yeah, thank you. Is this how Steve Jobs feels? Just kidding. This is, yeah, it's cool, but it's a project starter. So it's a remix stack. npx create remix at latest. TypeScript, of course. It doesn't work without the TypeScript flag, actually. I mean, you can make it work, but why would you? And install, and the template, epicweb-dev/epic react. But not all of us are building new apps every day. In fact, most of us go to work to build or work on existing apps. And so for you, it's a reference implementation. And eventually, it will have some chef's kiss docs that you can reference if you appreciate the opinions that I've encoded into this. And so my hope is that it's going to be a fantastic reference for anybody. And what's interesting is people often tell me that they've gone to my personal website, which is open source. They've gone to that repo and learned a ton. And I'm so glad, but I'm also really sorry because I started building my website before actions were a thing. In fact, the newsletter at the bottom of each one of my pages was a big inspiration for UseFetcher. So yeah, there be dragons there. What's cool about this is I can maintain this and provide really, really great examples for you to reference. And that's my hope, is that it can serve that. But also be a good project starter for you as you're exploring and trying new things. Another really cool thing about it is I took a leaf out of the Remix team's book, and have decision documents. So there are opinions, we are making trade-offs, and I'll describe those there in like mini blog post form. Like, why are we doing this? So another important part of libraries that I create, a testing library also had guiding principles. The guiding principles are kind of just like a high level, this is what matters to us, this is what we're going to try to follow. And so first, we want to limit third-party services. I personally believe that we are kind of addicted to services, and it's not as hard as you think to implement some things, especially when there are libraries that can do it. So if you can reasonably build, yeah, was there a clap? Yes. So if you can reasonably build, deploy, and maintain something yourself, then do it. That doesn't mean I have my app running in my NAS in my closet. We do use some services, but this is a guiding principle. It's not like a commandment or anything. It's more like guidelines than actual rules. I missed a good GIF opportunity there. So the next is include only the most common use cases. So it's expected that when you use a project starter, there's going to be a bunch of code you're going to delete, of course. But I want to make it so that you can get up and going really quickly without having to delete a ton of stuff. And so the repo, the starter, is not the docs. That's not where we put examples. We'll be putting examples and things in the documentation. But at the same time, there are a lot of things that are really common use cases, like authentication, for example. And so those will be baked in. So that's another guiding principle. And then also, we want to minimize setup friction. So there are some services we need to use, but when you have this epic idea that you want to implement and ship to the world, the last thing you want to do is start signing up for like a bunch of different services and spend like 30 minutes doing that. You just want to get going and go. And so we want to make it so that you can do that really quickly, and so we will defer signing up for things. So if you haven't signed up for something yet, we'll just kind of not do that piece of functionality. We'll do something a little easier. And I'll give an example later. And then lastly, optimize for adaptability. So like I said, I've been around for a while, and I know that the only thing that is consistent in this industry is how it's inconsistent. And we're constantly changing our requirements. And so sometimes you need to swap the custom-built thing for a service, and sometimes you need to do the opposite. And so this is another guiding principle, is we want to make it really easy. We want to optimize for change. So that's another core or guiding principle for us. So at this point, you're probably wondering, what the heck are the opinions, Kent? I have opinions too. I want to know if we line up. Tell me. So here's what Epic Stack gives you today. Just a couple of the things. First, it's Remix, of course, and React. React rocks, folks. It's great. And the entire React ecosystem is your oyster when you're using Remix. So definitely using Remix, super happy with it. That's all configured and set up for you. We're deploying on fly. I really like long-running servers. Serverless is interesting, and if you like it, don't use the Epic Stack. Make a fork, I guess. But fly.io has served me really well for years, and so I'm thrilled to be recommending that as part of this. And it's all pre-configured to make it really easy to deploy to multiple regions all over the world, so you can have your code running as close to the users as possible. We have a GitHub action that runs our tests and all of that stuff before deploying, and we can deploy to staging and production. That's all set up for you. Grafana is actually, if you didn't know this, it's built into Fly. So you get really awesome dashboards for the health of your application. We have a health check endpoint, a bunch of cool things like that. And it is running in Docker. I see some of you shaking in your boots. Don't worry, you won't have to touch that file very much. But if you ever do, you'll be glad that you could. SQLite is amazing. So I remember years ago, we used to think that SQLite was just like for Android apps or like little toy things that you're playing with. SQLite can do a petabyte of data. How many of you have a petabyte? Don't really raise your hands, but like most of you do not have a petabyte of data, I promise. And it still can be fast. It's remarkable how powerful this tool is. So we're using SQLite, but on top of that, we're using LiteFS on the Fly infrastructure. So we can actually deploy to many regions throughout the world right next to our app servers. What's really cool about this is when SQLite is a file on your server and your server is talking to it, there's no latency. So the N+1 problem is still technically a problem, but like minimally. You can make tons and tons of queries to that database. So it is an excellent choice. I love SQLite. And SQLite we're actually using for custom image hosting as well. So we're not using a third party for our images. We're hosting those ourselves in SQLite. get ready for your mind to be blown. SQLite can actually serve, in some cases, it will serve images faster than a file on disk. It's amazing. So SQLite's amazing. We're also using SQLite for caching. And so caching is all set up for you. If you have a third party you need to, you're going to get rate limited if you call it every time or whatever, or it's just slow, you can cache it in SQLite. That's all set up for you as well, using the cachified library that was extracted from my website. We're using Node.js, of course, and Express. Solid choice. And come on, folks. Of course, we're going to use Tailwind. But at the same time, sometimes you do need to use real CSS or write custom CSS. So we got Post CSS set up for you as well. Prisma is fantastic, and we have models for your user, your password, role-based permissions, and we've got a couple of example models in there as well. So yeah, Prisma's sweet. And we're using Zod because Zod is fabulous. And what's really cool is, for those of you who saw Edmund's talk yesterday about Conform, Conform is amazing, and it has a really great Zod integration. And so you get fully progressively enhanced forms that are fully type safe. Forms, type safety. It's great. It's awesome. Yes, that's right. I'm thrilled. OK, so here's a service that we are using. This is called Mailgun. I've been using it for a long time. I love it. And Mailgun, may kind of go against the, we limit the services. We can send emails ourselves. Yeah, you technically can. But if you ever want your emails to be read, you can't. So we're using a service for that. And I actually have a decision doc about that for more details if you're interested. We're using Radix, because you don't want to have to build a checkbox that's accessible or custom styled stuff. Eventually, the web platform will have all this stuff, but until then, we need to have a really good component library. Of course, all the testing things, testing library, vtest, Playwright, and Faker and MSW, fantastic tools for testing. And what's cool is they're all set up and have tests already implemented for things like onboarding, the forgot password and reset password flows. All of that stuff is already built for you and tested so that you can make adjustments to it without breaking things, which is cool. And then the obvious things like Prettier and TypeScript and NPM and ESLint. Some things that it's not done, we're still working on this. I have a really cool API on my personal website for creating sitemaps, so we're going to be doing that. Sentry is awesome, another service that is worth paying for. Metronome.sh, how many of you have heard of Metronome? All right, sweet. So it's a Web Vital tool specifically for Remix apps, and we're going to hear about it from the creator, Eric, a little bit later. So Metronome is sweet. Stripe will probably be a docs thing. I don't think that I'll have a built-in thing, but a lot of you need to use payments, and heck, if I'm going to store credit cards on my own database, no way. Fathom Analytics, that one's going to be easy. Fathom is awesome. I use it on my site. Ethical analytics that fit within GDPR. So, of course, internationalization, feature flags, custom image optimization, and yeah, light and dark and system modes that without the flash of in the incorrect theme. And then production database seeding. That's a question I actually get a lot from people. How do I seed my database in production, especially if it's SQLite? So that will either be docs or some scripts that you can run. But yeah, common question. It's something that I actually need as well. And there will be a lot more, both in the docs and built in. So look forward to that. Something that's unlikely to happen in the Epic stack is more than one way to do the same thing. The whole point of this is to make it so you don't have to make any decisions. And so I'm not going to say, OK, here, use the Epic stack and go to ship your product. But first, you have to decide this stuff. No, we're going to do one way to do it. And if that doesn't work for you, that's fine. Forking is free. I will not be offended. I'm here for those of you who are on board with this, and that's fine. Also, like I said, one of the guiding principles is adaptability. So if it doesn't quite fit for you, then it should hopefully be adaptable for your use case. So help is welcome. I really need help with this. There's actually, I saw a typo before coming up on stage, so good luck. Go find the typo and make your first PR. And if all you can do is hit the star, that also helps, because I know it's just a vanity metric, but it's totally not, right? When you go to a repo and you see that it has a bunch of stars on it, you start to take it seriously. So don't just click the star because I told you to. Give it a look, and if you think that it's worthy of your star, then give it one. That does actually help. I also have discussions open, and there are channels in my Discord where you can participate in chat about the Epic Stack. Give and receive help. So I'm going to close with the last 10. I'm over by 10 seconds. I'm going to close with this. Last week, I tweeted this. I've been really struggling with making decisions recently. It's unusual for me and pretty painful. I was in a dark place. I was really struggling. And what I was struggling with was this: Epic Web Dev. I realized, and when I started working on Epic Web Dev, I was worried about something. When you go to work and your boss says, we need to start testing, you instantly know you're a customer of testingjavascript.com. I need to know testing. When you go to hire on to a different job and they say, we don't use Svelte here, we use React, you're like, instantly, I'm an Epic React customer. But when you go to any job, do you ever think I'm an Epic, like I need to learn web? Nobody thinks that. And so nobody felt like they were a customer of Epic Web unless you were like brand new learning the web, right? So I knew this was going to be a problem, and then I listed 2 of the workshops for Epic Web that were about the web fundamentals. I sold, in the early bird, I sold a ticket to 1 person. And so that was just confirmation that this is too broad. I need to tighten the market. And in a conversation on Twitter with Matt Pocock and Philippe and others, I realized something really important. Epic Web Dev is about stopping the worry about this. That's what I'm offering as part of Epic Web Dev. It's helping you stop worrying about building the house like this. The Epic Stack is a firm foundation for you. It's something so you can just know that by building on this, things will probably be fine. You could build on other stacks, and you'll probably be fine. The idea is I just want to give you something that an experienced engineer has put together to help you feel like you can move forward without making a bunch of decisions. So Epic Web Dev is about teaching you how to ship modern full-stack applications, but it's about modern Epic Stack applications. I used to say Epic Web Dev is me teaching everything I know about the web, but that's not what it is. It's me teaching everything I recommend. And so it's about teaching you how to ship modern Epic Stack web applications. So like I said, one of the things I want for the Epic Stack is for its docs to be amazing and it to have the best learning resources available. And so that's what Epic Web will be. It's the learning resources for the Epic Stack. And even if you don't end up using the Epic Stack, I promise there will be a lot of really awesome things as part of Epic Web for you to take away. And with that, oh, right, I have one more thing. This is how Steve Jobs feels. Oh, this is it. You are awesome. Thank you.